Greetings guys, it's Irish here. In this video I thought I would start the Funtoo installation. In my last video I asked if you guys wanted me to do IP tables or Funtoo, and majority of the votes were for a Funtoo. Now Funtoo is kind of like a flavor of Gentoo. It's sort of its own distro. It's very similar to how I would describe it is just a flavor like a Ubuntu Mate or something similar to that, but coming straight from the Funtoo Linux is a Linux-based operating system that it's a variant of Gentoo Linux. Funtoo Linux is a meta distribution that builds packages automatically from source code. Installation images are optimized for the best possible performance on the latest Intel and AMD hardware. So to get the install medium, it says that you could actually use any distro ISO as long as it's a live DVD. But if you wanted to download it, you would actually be downloading the System Rescue CD, which has Network Manager built right in. So because of that, I'm doing this in VirtualBox. I actually went with the Gentoo Live DVD. So this is actually a Gentoo system, but I'm going to be following, for the most part, the instruction guide, the install on here. So I'm going to keep this on my other screen, but I will bring it back over here if I need to show you something. So, but I guess let's get started. So right off the bat, you're going to be in, if you do use the Gentoo installation medium or live DVD to get into root, it's just sudo su. And then I'm going to change the root password just for it. I'm just going to change it to root. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, it's very similar to Gentoo or or Arch, is we are going to partition this. So I'm just going to use cfdisk. It's just simpler. Dev sda. So we're just going to not do a GPT, which would be for UEFI. So we're just going to do a legacy or a DOS. So this is going to be a 30 gig, 6 gigs of memory, and 3 cores. So I'm going to just do one ginormous one for simplicity. But normally I break this into a boot partition, a root partition, and depending on your hardware, you could do swap and a home partition. So I'm just going to say primary. I guess I'll make it bootable. I'll write it. Yes. And now quit. Okay, so the Funtoo installation actually goes through cfdisk, fdisk. I'm actually starting to get into parted. The last time I did a Gentoo install, I did the parted way, and it's actually quite interesting. So, but for the sake of this, I'm just going to do cfdisk. So what we're going to do is make the file system. So it'd be mkfs ext4 dev sda1. Okay, so now that's done. So what we're going to do is move down. So in the Gentoo, you have to make a folder called mnt Gentoo, but with this one, you actually have to make it mnt Funtoo. And then we're going to mount dev sda1 to mnt Funtoo. Now, if you have any other partitions like boot and home, you would want to make that. So if we had a home, it would be make dir mnt Funtoo home or boot. But because I'm only doing one partition, we'll keep it as thus. Okay, so the next thing we're going to check is the date. So this actually is the correct time on my side. So it is about 8:45 at night. So we don't really need to do anything. So the next thing we're going to do is do the stage 3 tarball. So what we're going to do is cd into Funtoo. Okay, so now I'm just going to show this to you. Let me know. I will link this page down in the description below, but this is what we're going to type out. So let's do that. So it'll be wget http build funtoo.org funtoo current x86 64-bit generic 64 stage 3 latest.tar.xz. So I'm going to let that go because it's a little slower on a virtual machine. Depending on your speed of your internet, it shouldn't take too long. So I'm going to pause this really fast. Okay, so that actually took a while. My connection was really slow. It failed a couple times, but let's continue. So next thing we need to do is, let's list this out. Say there's the stage 3, so if we do the tar xvpf stage 3, there we go. So it is extracting everything that we will need for our Funtoo. So it shouldn't take too long. It's in the users right now. But I was reading ahead. It does look very similar to the Gentoo install. However, there are a few key differences, and if you guys have installed Gentoo before, you'll notice that you actually have to mount the proc, the rbinds, the dev, and the sys. However, you'll notice that there's only 3 of them, where in the Gentoo there's like 5 of them, because there's the proc. You still have to do the rbind, but you also have to do the make rslave also for these. This is different. You can just, once this is done and this is copied over, you can actually just root into it instead of having to do a environmental variable here. If you guys are following this, I think you'll know I'm rooted into this, so I am not going to do it. The thing is, if you're on your main system and you had to go in between 2 terminals, you may get confused, possibly, which one's the rooted environment and what's not, but I don't think I need this. I usually don't do this even on the Gentoo one. It's pretty simple to figure out which one it is. So, alrighty. So once that's done, sorry. Let's list this out one more time. As you see, we have everything. So what we're going to do is mount t proc none proc mount dash rbind sys, and then same thing but with dev. Okay, now we're going to copy over our resolve.conf, so etc resolve.conf to mnt funtoo etc. Okay, and then we're going to do env-i home equals root term equals $term bin chroot bash dash L. So from what this looks like there is a space between these two, so that's what you're going to do. And now, as you can see, if we weren't chrooted in, it would still say Funtoo, and now there's that. So if we ls, granted we still have everything in here, but we're in the root partition, so that's what we just need to do. I'm just going to follow this verbatim, so we have to make sure that we have internet connection. There we go. Granted, I don't know why this is in the middle of it, because you do need to have internet connection before you even get the stage 3, so whatever, that's how they have it. So now we're just going to download the portage tree. So what we're going to do is say ego sync. So this should get everything that we need. This is very similar to the emerge WebRSync. So this is getting the latest thing from the portage tree. Alright, so it's just about done. So I'm looking ahead at this also. So this is stuff that you do in your other distros, like the fstab, local time, portagemake.conf, Etsy hostname, hosts, and this tells you, do you need to change it? So this is actually quite interesting that it actually tells you which ones you really need to do. So fstab, obviously, your local time, most likely, because then you're stuck with UTC. And then obviously you're going to have to do your make.conf right now, but it says maybe recommended. I suggest doing that one. So, but this is actually giving you the list of what we're actually going to be heading down to. So hopefully this doesn't take too long here. It has different kits, which is different branches, which is interesting. So I'm going to pause this once again, just for the sake of the length of this video. So I'll be right back. Okay, so it finally finished, but as you could see, there's a bunch of branches that needed to be updated, so that did take a little bit of time, which is interesting that they do it this way. But alright, so let us continue. So after that, we're going to do a nano W. The W is for wrapping, because if you don't have wrapping, you could, not knowing it, screw up your config if you move it down to a line. So this wraps it so it so it'll work. So Etsy fstab. So let us, so we're gonna do Control D. Alright, let's delete this line. We're just gonna delete up to SDA. So root ext4. With this, it suggests, a lot of people put no auto, but I'm gonna say no wait time. And I'll just say 01. Save it. And let's move on. So next thing we're going to do is do our local time. So ln -sf user share zone info. So I'm going to say America, Chicago, and that's the local time. That's very similar since it's using a symlink to this. That's very similar to Arch Linux here. So it says to go into nano w etc conf.d hw clock. So now this depends. So if you are just doing straight up Linux, you could keep it on UTC. However, if you are doing a dual boot with Windows and Linux, then you would want to put it to local. So as you can probably read up here. So I'm just going to keep it as it is. So now what we're going to do is ego sync again. Actually, we'll skip that because we just did that. So now we say emerge AU capital DN at world. So the @ sign is making is pretty much saying do the entire world of packages that are installed instead of having it look for a package called world. So that's what the @ sign usually is. So we're going to update this and see how many packages there are. Now you could do something similar in Arch Linux where you do the -- with -bdeps equals y, but I'm not going to do it for right now. So, well, actually, I'm going to say no really fast here. Let's do this again. I like to see the verbose. So, let that go. This should give us the number of packages that need to be updated. Yeah, here we go. So, for right now, there's 95 packages, 37 upgrades, 54 new, 3 in new slots, and 1 reinstall. And we can go through this. So here's the reinstall, which is OpenSSH. The N is new, and the U is upgrading. If there says the N, that's one of the new slots. Oh, sorry, NS is the new slot. Yeah, so everything looks fine. So I'm going to let this run. This may take a while due to my internet speeds for right now, so I will try to get back to you guys when this is done. Okay, okay, so it's still compiling. As you can see, it's on 95, 25 of 95, and it is compiling GCC. This does take several hours, and it is about 1 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night. So I'm probably going to break this video into 2 parts. So the next video I will continue on. So there's not much more that we need to do with this. So to get at least a base. So maybe tomorrow I will finish this off, and then I'll maybe break this into 3 parts. Do the Xorg, volume, and desktop. And maybe, if I think about it, Dirk, I will do the HP install for printing. But to me, it's very similar to Gentoo, and I've gotten HP printing to work on Gentoo. So, as you can see with that symbol down there. So, so yeah, I'm going to stop this now, and I will see you guys in part 2.